I do find a lot of enjoyment hiking on my own property and seeing the biodiversity of the different species of trees and how they grow together. We've got a really beautiful madrone grove over here, but just beyond it is a vast forest of tan oaks. It's interesting how all of a sudden everything kind of stops and changes. And there might be an oddball madrone that makes its way into the tan oak forest, but as you look all through here, and I've got a few areas on the property that are like that, where I've got dozens of really beautiful madrone trees, and they're all kind of together in one area. But now look down here. This is really amazing. This is the tan oak that I was talking about. Very, very tall trees. And some of these trees are 100 feet tall, or possibly more. And as they go down the canyon, they seem to get taller still. But as I've mentioned many times before, this is a tree that is highly susceptible to the Phytophthora ramorum, and they are dying by the millions in California. You see this one right in front of me? Stone dead. Those over there, that one, that one, that one, that one over there is dying. Look up the hill, those are all dead. That one fell down. I mean, that's just in this small area. So I worry about the future of this tan oak forest in here. What's going to happen? Is it all going to die? Am I going to be stuck with just an incredible fire hazard? I mean, there's no way that I could, clear this out. There's literally thousands of trees on my property. And there are a few really significant tan oaks on the property. I don't know if you can see that one. I sure hope that one doesn't die. That's going to be a real pain if it does. And then off in the distance you can see a big fir tree. I've got a lot of big firs on the property. And the other prominent tree that I have, there's not one around here, but I've got lots of canyon oaks. The canyon live oaks, the Quercus chrysiopolis. And those are magnificent big trees as well. Well, I'll take you on a little hike now. I've got lots of trails on my property that I have cut, and I've got one tree out here that is really special. It's way off in the woods here. You look at these giants. They're magnificent. And a lot of them are dying. This isn't really a trail here, it's more of an animal trail. Let's see if I can do this without falling on my butt. Oh, look at that. There's another tan oak that fell down. That one was green. That's interesting. We had some really big winds up here. See a few dead ones up there. There's a dead one. This one's dead. Oh God, it really worries me. The state of the forest. And it's not my forest, it's everybody's forest that I'm concerned about. In some parts of the world, the pine trees are just being decimated. Some parts up in the north in Oregon, Washington, and all the pine forests are just completely and totally decimated. Well, I don't have a lot of pines on my property. I've got a couple of them that I planted, but one by one, these tan oaks are going to fall down. I hope it's a long, slow process of them falling down and going back into the earth. They do decay rather quickly. Now these tan oaks, when they die, they just get riddled with these little, I think they're ambrosia beetles, but they're borers. They get into the wood and fungus rapidly follows. So when these tan oaks do die, it's like 1 to maybe 2 years before they rot and fall down. Which brings me to the problem of these trees growing along roadways and power lines. So the tree that I'm talking about is way up there. See if I can find my way up that hillside. And this is the tree that I wanted to show you. This has got to be the grandfather madrone on the whole property. I have no idea how old this tree is, but it is a real giant of a madrone. It's hard to tell in the video here, but from there to there is easily 6 feet across. Up in the trunk area here, it's about 4 feet. And to see a madrone that big is really rare. Now this is one of the things I really wanted to show you. If you look closely down in here, you can see evidence of an old fire. Some of the old wood in there is burned, which tells me that this whole property burned down at one time. Now I've counted the rings on some of these tan oaks here, and I'm going to guess that there was a fire out here sometime back in the 30s that pretty much wiped out everything. This tree tolerated the fire and survived because it was so big, or possibly there weren't enough other trees right around it that burned. But if you look at the size of all the trees and compare it to this one giant, it's quite the anomaly that's out of place. And it's got some big, massive dead branches in it, and the top of the tree just goes to the sky. This tree is probably, easily 90 feet tall. There's a couple of firs down there that are also giants. There's some massive big trees. They're probably 4 feet across at the base and 150 feet tall or so. The few smaller firs over there, those trees are probably 60 to 80 years old. Those big ones down there are probably 300 to 400 years old. I'm going to bet that this tree is 400 years old. Now, the only way to really tell would be to dissect it and count the rings, which I don't want to do. But these madrones grow pretty slow, and to see something this massive tells me this is part of a bygone era. And here's that canyon live oak I was talking about. Very, very different from the coast live oak that we have down in the valley. This does stay green all year round, and unfortunately, it too is susceptible to the same Phytophthora ramorum that's killing the tan oaks. Those 4 trees that I was talking about, the tan oak, the madrone, the Douglas fir, and the canyon live oak, those trees are the dominant ones on the property. They comprise, I'd say, 90% of all the trees. But we do have a smattering of other small trees. We do have, these are bay trees, California bay trees, and they can get quite large. But I don't have any really huge ones on the property. My elevation is 2,850 feet, and I don't have any redwoods on the property with the exception of one that I planted, and it's just barely limping along. There's a few other oddball trees that pop up here and there, but I would say 99% of all the trees on the property are those 5 that I talked about. Now you drive 1 mile up the road and it can be entirely different. There's some areas that have some big pines not too far from here. But this whole property, all the way down, is dominated by these trees. And here's the granddaddy of the canyon live oaks. I sure hope this one survives. This would be a nightmare to take it down. Power pole, wires, road, massive wood. Hang in there, buddy.